Yo, Priest, I got you. Well, the Padres got you this gift on behalf of, being over in San Diego. Check it out. See what you think. Yeah, buddy.
That's cool, man.
Yeah, buddy. Come on, man. Get you all San Diego now.
Juan Soto, baby. Juan Soto.
Man, San Diego loves giving New York free stuff.
Hey, man. Take it easy. Too soon.
Congratulations, Dan Tony and Kevin Castle. It's going to be a huge success that you guys are bringing this podcast back. And you know the song that we sing when we're doing well, especially when we do well in 2024. We in the money. We in the money. Do 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 do. That's right, everybody. Tune in January 1st, all right? The brand new and up-to-date Don Tony and Kevin Castle podcast show coming back in 2024.
All right, even though I am a little disappointed of the outcome between Drew McIntyre and Seth Rollins, I know it's only January 1st, but I think photography-wise, if there was a cameraman with a regular camera right behind the live cameraman, this has got to be one of the shots of 2024 when we look back at the next 365 days. Just his toe leaning against the rope, and that's because Drew McIntyre hooked Seth Rollins just a little too much, and as a result, Drew McIntyre a little frustrated. Seth Rollins capitalizes. Next thing you know, we get curb stomp 1, 2, 3. And Seth Rollins remains your world heavyweight champion at this time. Damian Priest almost cashed in. Drew McIntyre kind of spoiled that. By the way, I don't know if you heard me right at the beginning. That jersey that Damian Priest put on is the jersey of Juan Soto, who I believe just signed with the Yankees here in New York. And Damian Priest is a New Yorker. So that's, do you see Dominic Mysterio's reaction? You know, I mean, in San Diego, that's his hometown. But I want to welcome everyone. Happy New Year. 2024, we are here. I can't believe we are already in 2024. And holy shit, the news, the rumors, the clickbait in full force. So I am up here. We're going to do this show a little bit quicker than usual because we had a very heavy weekend. Saturday, we put on probably the most fun Don Tony show to close out 2023. And yesterday, we did a little New Year's countdown as well, and it was all sit-down style. So we answered a lot A couple of things we will add from yesterday, a couple of news tidbits. Probably the most important tidbit to come out of Raw tonight, and I think I would be disrespectful if we didn't talk about this right off the bat, and that is the surprise return of a former WWE champion. Now, we speculated over the weekend, could it be Brock Lesnar? He's supposed to return to the Royal Rumble. I know a lot of websites rolled the dice. They rolled the dice, but they rolled it wrong, saying that Andrade will be on Raw tonight. He is back. He is on Raw. I believe Andrade is back, but the scenario might be a little bit different. Actually, before we talk about The Rock, let me just throw this out there right off the bat, all right? Hours. Now, I want everybody to just think of common sense for a minute, and you'll realize that this is storyline more than anything else, okay? Dragon Lee, okay? Dragon Lee. He is the NXT North American champion. At New Year's Eve tomorrow, he's supposed to team up with Cruz del Toro and Joaquin Wilde, and then taking on Drew Gulak, Damon Kemp, and Charlie Dempsey, I believe, at New Year's Eve. So now, keep in mind, January 1st, 2024, holiday weekend. Friday, a lot of companies close early. No federal offices open Saturday. None open on Sunday. None open on Monday. Dragon Lee, Cruz del Toro, and Joaquin Wilde were announced for NXT New Year's Eve last Tuesday. So you went Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Now, in that 4-day stretch, do you honestly believe what Dragon Lee wrote on social media tonight? Dragon Lee went on Twitter about an hour and a half before Raw started and apologized to everyone and said that he will not be able to compete at NXT New Year's Eve because he has visa issues. Visa issues. You think he went back overseas between Tuesday and Friday and wasn't let back? You think that they announced that match last week, 4 days before a holiday weekend, and there was a possibility, oh, my visa, it's not fixed yet. Oh, I don't know if I could appear. I believe that that was done by design, because tomorrow at NXT New Year's Eve, we may get the return of Andrade. And I think Andrade will fill that spot as a surprise return, because I think I want people to understand something. You know, we are big fans of Andrade, but let's also go back in time a little bit. When Andrade left WWE, there was really no momentum going on. Even when he came into AEW, wasn't he the protege of Vicky Guerrero? And he was doing this millionaire thing, trying to bribe, what was it, Ray Phoenix and others. Oh, join me. Like he was going to be like the Puerto Rican Ted DiBiase. It didn't work. Or the Mexican Ted DiBiase. He didn't have the momentum. But over the last bunch of years, he has elevated his game big fucking time. Yes, got married to Charlotte. Yes, Ric Flair is his father-in-law, but Andrade really worked his ass off in the ring, outside the ring. So Andrade coming back now is much bigger than what it was a couple of years ago. But the last thing you want to do is have Andrade show up on SmackDown as a surprise and get a very lukewarm reaction. Just because AEW popped for Andrade doesn't mean that the WWE Universe is going to pop for Andrade. So you bring him back in NXT, get the buzz out there that Andrade is back, and then the WWE Universe now has 3 days, 72 hours to digest the fact that Andrade is back. And then on SmackDown, you have Santos Escobar. You have Angel Garza. You have Humberto Carrillo. They come out there, and what happens? Zelina Vega, who is still pissed the fuck off at Santos Escobar for turning against Ray, for turning against the LWO. And Zelina Vega brings out Cruz del Toro, Joaquin Wilde, and Andrade. and they start feuding amongst themselves. Unfortunately, Carlito still stays on the Mexican milk carton, which Kevin and I predicted, 6-7 weeks ago? Have you seen Carlito since? I expect him to return soon. But, that's what I would do. I think a feud, come on, think about it. If you truly follow Andrade's career and Santos Escobar, you're telling me an Andrade Santos Escobar wouldn't be fucking tremendous? That would be off the hook. So that's how I would set up Andrade's return. We'll see what happens. All right. Before we talk about Mercedes Moné and AEW, before we talk about a little bit of AJ Lee in the WWE, let's talk a brief moment about The Rock. Now, I think you realize by now on my shows, on my social media, I don't clickbait. I don't intentionally give you fake news to trigger your emotions, to tune in and vent and, have all these reaction. I try to give you straight up the truth. And yes, it is boring at times because you kind of ruin the surprise. I'm kind of like what used to happen to me when I was a kid. A lot of you know the story with my Uncle Joe when I was 11 years old, watching WWF on Channel 9 at 5 o'clock in the evening, I think on a Saturday. And my Uncle Joe in 1980 whatever says, "Oh, why are you watching that fake stuff?" Come on, Uncle Joe, it's not fake. Fina, give me a VHS tape. Motherfucker actually put a tape in, recorded a few seconds, played it back, slow motion. I see Chief Jay Strongbow go like this. Go like this. And I'm like, you bastard. You bastard. I mean, he was having fun. I love my uncle. I miss him. He's passed away. But I'm kind of like that person. I'm kind of ruining the tease. But I personally think why would you want to get your balls in a bunch? Why would you want to get yourself so triggered and then find out, something is totally different? Look at the last couple of days with Kevin Dunn. Kevin Dunn, if you do a simple Google search, you will see 3 months ago, there was buzz of TKO Group Holdings with Endeavor and WWE consolidating, and there was a lot of rumors that Kevin Dunn may be leaving WWE. Kevin Dunn stepped down, is retiring. He is not involved with TKO Group Holdings. He's not on the board of directors. He let Nick Khan know that December 31st was going to be his last day, and they kept it hush-hush until it was time. And you see in 24 hours, we had some fun with it yesterday. You have all these people on social media. You would have thought that Kevin Dunn, Nick Khan too, but you would think Kevin Dunn, kidnapped their pet, kicked their mother in the stomach. Did all this horrible stuff. I mean, not for nothing, guys. Go back and watch Rhea Ripley and Ivy Nile tonight. I think there was 77 camera shots. Kevin Dunn's supposed to be gone already, but meanwhile, those camera shots, what was that, a tribute for Kevin Dunn tonight? Let's fucking make people dizzy. So people are getting this ridiculous amount of anger to Kevin Dunn. And how to justify it? By lying. Triple H fired him. Triple H forced him out. WWE, put the pressure against Kevin Dunn. The guy was making millions. The guy has been there for 40 fucking years, through good times and in bad. I'm not a fan of Kevin Dunn. For all I care, he could go to the Adirondack Mountains, gnaw on some poison wood, and, we never see him ever again. I don't care about Kevin Dunn, but I don't lose sleep over it. He's gone. WWE is going to be the same. The same wrestlers are going to be pushed. And the last year and a half, WWE's been good. So what do you think happens in the last year and a half in the WWE creative meetings? We're thinking about doing this. I didn't decide. Shut up! Shut up! Well, okay, Kevin, what's your idea? I say we give Johnny Gargano and Johnny Nitro as a tag team. We'll call them John and John. People have this anger, like he committed some type of assault on them. He retired. He's old. He's got money. He doesn't fall into the plan with TKO Group Holdings. There's no controversy there. He's gone. There isn't a damn thing we can do about it. Bye-bye, Kevin. You'll not hear me bring up Kevin Dunn again, unless he actually does eat some poison wood. He gnaws on some bad wood, and then we'll have to talk about it. All right, so let's get to The Rock for a minute. I prefaced it about telling you straight up like it is, because I'm not going to sit here and try to make you believe that Cody may not finish the story at WrestleMania. Change of plans. The Rock suddenly became available, and now WWE is trying to divert the story, or they're considering Rock, Roman, and Cody at Mania, because that's what you're going to be fed for the next couple of days. All of those morons that 3 or 4 weeks ago, when Bayley got re-signed and Charlotte got injured, and you heard about other contracts being negotiated, and they're like, shit. Sasha Banks, they paved the way for her return. And then Sasha does that podcast interview with two goofs overseas, and she's caressing the WWE Women's Tag Team Champions. And like, fuck, we got to change our agenda. Talks fell apart with AEW and Mercedes Moné. And then now, after what happens the last week, because Mercedes wants her brand outside of the WWE, and WWE says, we don't have enough time to draft all that stuff up before the Royal Rumble, before Elimination Chamber, before this. So look, we can do something in the future, but right now we just don't have the time to do it. Now suddenly, Mercedes is going to appear as early as this Wednesday. As early as this Wednesday. That's the same thing as it's saying Andrade could return as early as tonight. Brock Lesnar could return as early as tonight. Sooner or later, you'll get it right. It's like AJ Styles. He's going to show up on SmackDown. 4 weeks later, it finally happens. So, The Rock shows up tonight. WWE trolled us a little bit. We thought for a brief moment that the WWE champion, a former WWE champion that was making his return, was Jinder Mahal. Jinder Mahal came out, and Jinder Mahal doing like Muhammad Hassan suddenly. USA more divided than ever. USA, so much misinformation, ignorance, that they treat him different. They look at him different. They see him different because he looks different. I don't know the only thing he looks different about him is that he's in better shape than me. I could speak Punjabi. So he's doing the whole Muhammad Hassan gimmick. And as soon as I hear this out of his mouth, I go on social media and I'm like, okay, in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, if you smell, because obviously there was only 2 choices, guys, The Rock or Hulk Hogan. And honestly, by the time Hulk Hogan hits the ring, what are you talking about, America, brother? We'd be falling asleep already. So you could see that a mile away that somebody was going to come out on behalf of America. America the beautiful. So what happens? Jinder Mahal is running down America, and then sure enough, a few moments later, The Rock's music hits. Everybody's losing their shit. And let's be honest, guys, we probably had the similar vibes of The Rock and Austin Theory from not too long ago. The Rock is looking at Goosebumps. He's not looking at cheat notes, by the way. The Rock hits the ring, and The Rock has a little bit of a confrontation with Jinder Mahal. And, earlier on, Jinder Mahal is talking about the Iron Sheik, talking about, people before him who were disrespected and, basically putting Iran and India and Iraq and all in one basket, like America always treats them like shit. So Rock, nothing was censored tonight. Nothing was censored tonight. And The Rock, he did curse a few times. He tells Jinder Mahal, you're not the Iron Sheik. And he says, I love the Iron Sheik. Everybody loved the Iron Sheik. And then Rock goes into typical Rock mode. And Rock says, if the Iron Sheik was here right now, he'd be saying to me, Rock, brother, who is this no good jabroni, son of a bitch bastard? I sound more like Jimmy Snuka than the Iron Sheik. Zoometh on these balls. So everybody's going nuts. The Rock is proud to be the people's champion. The Rock is proud to be an American. And he's proud to say, and he goes into his whole, finally, The Rock has come back to San Diego. Then he gets into Jinder Mahal. They don't boo you because of how you talk, how you look, or because you talk Punjabi. And then Rock starts getting voices in his head, and it's Sheiky Baby. And the Sheik tells The Rock that the reason why they're booing Jinder Mahal is because he's the biggest asshole on God's green earth. So Jinder Mahal is there a little bit perplexed. The Rock says, yeah, that's the resting bitch face, and I have the raging asshole face. No one likes you. You're not funny. If you were one of The Rock's movies, you'd be Baywatch. And then you get some corny ad lib. Jinder Mahal, I didn't watch Baywatch. Oh, The Rock's like, you didn't watch? It doesn't matter if you watch Baywatch or not. So The Rock finishes up talking about freedom of speech, that Jinder Mahal has the freedom to run down this country, but you're not going to run it down in the people's ring. You may be the modern day Maharaja, but from this moment on, you are the one-day douchebag. So we get one side of the ring, one day, the other side, douchebag, one day douchebag. It went longer than you are an asshole. They didn't edit anything out. So the crowd is doing this for about a minute or two. And then The Rock with Jinder Mahal, one last gift to Jinder Mahal. He is going to sing a little bit, and he's going to do our national anthem, a little tweak on our national anthem. And he says, and the Rockets red glare, San Diego's aware. I can't believe I remember this. They say that you are jacked as hell. I thought he was going to say, but your balls still smell. But he said, your balls still aren't there. You're an angry, toxic douchebag who clearly has no class. So The Rock has no choice but to whoop that candy ass. Jinder Mahal hits The Rock, gets a little offense. The Rock hits him with the people's elbow. Jinder Mahal out of dodge. Then we get the mic drop. Then we get the moment. Then all the clickbaiters orgasmed. Because The Rock finishes up and says, San Diego, I'm hungry. Now, I thought he was going to name drop a restaurant and watch all the goofs leave to go to the restaurant to meet The Rock. The Rock says, I'm hungry tonight. I'm going to go out to eat. But I have a question, San Diego. Should I sit at the bar? Should I sit at a booth? Or should I sit at the head of the table? Everybody lose their fucking mind. The Rock has called out Roman Reigns. And The Rock finishes up, I love you, San Diego, if you smell it. And that's how we end. So, The Rock has indirectly challenged Roman Reigns. The Rock will face Roman Reigns at Elimination Chamber. It is all but a lock until WWE announces it. Do not consider it 100%. But if you remember, about 2 weeks ago, there was news going around. The government of Perth, who is hosting Elimination Chamber, wanted The Rock to appear. And basically, they were sending inquiries saying, what do we have to do to get The Rock in Perth for the WWE Elimination Chamber? And it looks like it is happening. I don't believe The Rock has ever performed there. So this would be a first for The Rock. You get The Rock and Roman Reigns, the match that everybody's been talking about for a couple of years now. You get that out the door. Perth, pretty big event. You see the record numbers that WWE's been touting. I mean, this is impressive. Their holiday tour, 4 sellouts, 8 record gates for the holiday tour that they just did. But to me, this is even more mind-blowing when you think of the Attitude Era. And you also think about the fact that, we don't hear, this is the thing, for me, being an older guy, this is the thing that fascinates me the most about WWE right now financially. WWE touted this. Biggest year in WWE history. Highest social media views ever. All right, whatever. Okay, we see how social media keeps expanding. Highest sponsorship revenue ever. Highest merchandise revenue ever. Highest premium live event viewership ever. Highest grossing ticket sales ever. Now, of course, and this is something that people just do not do. Maybe Jim Cornette might be one of the, and Eric Bischoff might be two of the rare ones that do it. You cannot take revenue from the Attitude Era and compare it to today, because you have to also include inflation. That's the thing. So you can have 20 years ago crazy revenue sales. You think about Austin 316 shirts, you think about The Rock, you think about DX merchandise. How is it that it's the highest now? They're looking at overall bottom dollar. But if you offset inflation going back to the Attitude Era, it's higher now. How is that? I went to school, and almost every guy that was in my school at some point or another had a wrestling shirt that they wore when they were allowed to. I mean, I don't go to school anymore, but, I go to stores, I go to events, I go to supermarkets, I go to, and you see like teenagers, kids or whatever. I mean, people don't shop like they used to. I can't tell you the last time I saw anybody wearing a wrestling shirt in the street, in the store, at an event. Sometimes I see little kids wearing John Cena stuff. So you say to yourself, where is all this merchandise going? People buy it and just wear it to wrestling events, or they just wear it at home? So you say to yourself, how is it we never hear today people complaining about the cost of the tickets, about going to these events? We've heard it a little bit about AEW's tour of Canada. If you remember that tour of Canada and people complaining, look, a family of four would have cost like $300-400 just to get in the door. But outside of that, we haven't heard it either way. AEW, Impact, WWE, nothing. So it's just kind of mind-boggling in this economy, especially in the state that it's in, that nothing, people aren't complaining about it. People are spending that kind of money. So now you think of Perth and you think of WWE, biggest year ever. Now you say to yourself, okay, now I could see The Rock making an appearance. Now you could see why John Cena comes out. And it wasn't just because of the strike. He wasn't doing it for free. This one's on me, guys. You're going to see big time money being paid out to people. You see people re-signing. They're not signing for less money. There's more opportunity now than there was 5 years ago. Happy anniversary AEW. They turned 5 today. So Roman Reigns versus The Rock is likely going to happen at Elimination Chamber. And based on that, Roman Reigns will defeat The Rock. Roman will go on to WrestleMania. Cody Rhodes finishes the story. It's the way it's been mapped out. It's the way it appears it's going to go. And The Rock has become available for Elimination Chamber. That is likely the scenario. So if you see anybody out there playing on emotions, if you want to play along, no problem with that. But you just keep in mind people that are even posing that doubt about Cody finishing the story and, this happened in a Mania. Either they have some of the worst sources in the world or they're just trying desperately to get your attention. And it's not going to happen. Now, as I said earlier, Mercedes Moné. Now, I'm not getting into the conversation we had Saturday. If you didn't tune into Saturday's show, you're more than welcome to. It's not a very long show, but we got into some very important points for that show. But I will say this. Mercedes Moné and WWE did meet recently. Talks broke apart, and it wasn't really about the dollar figure at the end of the day, Mercedes Moné, Mercedes Varnado, Sasha Banks, whatever you want to call her, she wants her brand outside of wrestling. She wants the Mercedes Moné brand to expand. And WWE, any of that is agreed on has to be done legally. There's copyright involved. There's a lot of I's and E's I's and T's that have to be dotted and crossed. And we're a couple of weeks away from the Rumble. They're not good at say, okay, let's agree to the Royal Rumble and we'll figure this out as we go along. That's not how it works. It doesn't. Everything has to be done in writing, on paper, and that is very complicated. It is extremely complicated, and there's just not enough time. So the idea that WWE just walked away and won't give her what she wants, that is very, very, very incomplete. So now, because WWE fans and journalists and media know about that, now suddenly the AEW talks and Mercedes have returned. Why? Because they are convinced that Mercedes is returning to wrestling in some capacity. Kind of funny how Japan is no longer a consideration. Think about that. She was supposed to have this amazing Japanese run, and Japan could afford Mercedes big time. There's people that think that Impact could ink Mercedes for 6 months or 9 months or whatever it is. But it's kind of funny that because the only reason why they're talking about AEW is not because they know anybody that knows Sasha that's going to reveal that personal important information. It's because they just use by process of elimination. Oh, well, now since she's not going to WWE, it only makes sense for Tony Khan to pay her what she wants. And it looks like Mercedes could very well end up in AEW. AEW will allow her to have her brand. As long as she shows up for the TV, she can have her brand. And that's why when Tony Khan said years ago, oh, WWE's contracts are a joke and our contracts are this big, that's because it's like, just show up. I mean, it's not that simple, but Mercedes will have a ton more freedom to do it. Look at Ric Flair. Ric Flair kind of exposed what's going on with him in AEW, because Ric Flair just did an interview with Charlie Caruso. We remember Charlie Caruso. A lot of people don't like her now because of her political views, but Charlie Caruso just interviewed Ric Flair. I don't have the transcript in front of me, but Ric Flair was talking about politics in WWE and everybody wants to own WWE. I don't know what the fuck he's talking about. Everybody wants to own WWE. He didn't give any examples. Do the wrestlers want to own WWE? I mean, Vince already he sold a bunch of his shares, but, people run with it. But the funny thing is, he talks about how AEW is so much less pressure and this and that, and it's so much more simpler. Guy, I thought you were working for Woo Energy, and I thought Woo Energy was paying you, and you were just showing up to fulfill the agreement between Woo Energy and Tony Khan. I mean, the more Ric Flair talks, the more he reveals that, this is not a contract between Woo Energy and Tony Khan. It's almost like setting up an LLC to hide your income. I mean, any of you out there that does any type of business, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. Hey, I want to hide some money. So let me create an LLC and I'll just have the money pass through my corporation. And then I could write off money for rent and money for utilities and computers and this and this and this. Meanwhile, I'm putting some cash in my pocket. We know how the game is played, Rick. So, all right. Now, Mercedes teased everybody. I'm sure you probably haven't seen this, but she actually posted this a couple of days ago. Just her smirking in front of, the back of her is like a picture of Triple H. She's kind of like teasing like the pictures she used to post about Vince McMahon. But I truthfully believe Mercedes is likely not going to be in the WWE anytime soon. The most interesting thing about it is if she signs with Impact, By this time next year, Mercedes could be in the WWE. Who knows? Mercedes could possibly be in the WWE by the end of the year. But if she signs with AEW, I would be shocked if Tony Khan only signed her for a year. I think 2-3 years at minimum. So some of you out there, that are really hardcore Sasha Banks fans, just start paying attention to the AEW roster and start thinking to yourself, how much am I going to be into to see Julie Hart versus Mercedes Moné? Or Chris Statlander versus Mercedes Moné, or Dr. Britt Baker versus Mercedes Moné. You have to start thinking to yourself, wait a minute, we don't have a Bianca Belair in AEW. We don't have a Charlotte Flair and Io Sky and Asuka, a Bayley, a Rhea Ripley, and you go on and on and on. So Sasha is going to have to help elevate some of those women to another level, or AEW has to sign more women. Bring in Julia. Listen, you bring in Julia and Mercedes Moné, you add a couple of women that are doing good in AEW right now, that could take care of your women's division for the next 6 months. Easily for the next 6 months. Ember Moon, Athena now, she's killing it. Ruby Soho could still go. Toni Storm, Jesus Christ, she's doing great. And there's many others in the pipeline. So if they add Mercedes, I think they need to add one other person on that level. I think Julia would be the perfect person to do. I don't think you add one or the other. I think you have to add two, or at least Mercedes and somebody else. Maybe Deonna Purrazzo. Mercedes and Deonna Purrazzo would be a good pair for AEW. I don't know about Camille. Camille I like, but Camille, I don't know if she could be that cornerstone, if you know her style, you know what I'm talking about. Now, someone else who teased on social media this weekend was AJ Lee, the wife of CM Punk. She went on Instagram and she put on her old boots and she wrote, "Hello, darkness, my old friend." And I don't know if anybody took little notice of the T-shirt that she has in the corner, which is a T-shirt, I believe, of Sailor Moon. Ha-ha! Interesting, huh? People, I think, read a little bit too much into it, and she's like, come on, guys, I'm still retired. I'm still retired. It don't mean nothing a week or two from now. But listen, I joked on social media earlier. If Tony Khan signs Mercedes, as a joke, I could see Triple H saying, you know what? I see Tony's Monet, and I raise you a pair of Brooks. I could see Triple H bringing in AJ Lee in place of working out a deal with Mercedes Moné. And I don't think anybody would have a problem with that. And how crazy is it? How crazy is it that a month from now, 2 months from now, who knows, that we could possibly get Sasha Banks and AJ Lee back on television? We don't know which companies, but you look at women's wrestling and the idea that both of these women could be back on television sooner than later. It's not bad. Not bad. And they're not old. That's the thing also. They still have years left. So take it however you want. But both of them are stirring it up a little bit. And I truthfully believe, especially with Charlotte Flair on the shelf. And I get it. I know what somebody's going to say to me. If you bring in AJ Lee is probably better needed on Raw than SmackDown. And I agree wholeheartedly. Absolutely agree. Now, I will say this. I'm going to segue from AJ Lee to Raw tonight. And let me tell you something. Even though Rhea Ripley got the victory tonight in her match, which we knew was going to happen, Rhea Ripley retains the Women's World Championship tonight on Raw. But I can't tell you how happy I was for Ivy Nile. I have watched Ivy Nile the beginning of her NXT career no professional wrestling background whatsoever. And she took it, and the wrestling bug bit her. And she was already crazy powerful. Her physique is always, it's not always, but she's always been a spitfire, as people say. But she worked her ass off. And if you look at her size, she's a very small girl, very small girl. And tonight, hearing the crowd chant, "This is awesome." And I don't remember them saying that to Drew versus Seth. I got to go back and play it again. But to hear it during Rhea Ripley and Ivy Nile is like, I'm so happy for her. She worked her ass off tonight. And why this match is important is because, Kev and I are going to start doing shows again January 29th. We made the announcement over the weekend. I will be putting up Discord links in the very near future. We're getting everything set up behind the scenes. That's why we need 4 weeks beforehand. We're going to do a Royal Rumble prediction show before that. But in 4 weeks from today, we will be back on Monday nights. So if you check out Saturday's show, which for people on YouTube, I'll put the link up. Right at the very beginning, I get into all the details. And we'll be getting to more info in the very near future. But the reason why I bring this up is I remember when Kev and I talked about AJ Lee when she first debuted on WWE television. And I have no problem saying that she proved me wrong. But I remember AJ Lee training with Jay Lethal. I remember AJ Lee before coming on WWE television. And I always thought that AJ Lee was too small. Even for that era, that period, you had your Beth Phoenix and you had your Candice Michelles and you had your Michelle McCools and everybody else from that period. But even with that, it was a hard sell for me to believe that AJ Lee could put a tarantula on someone and squeeze and get people to submit. And yes, I'm a big fat Italian guy, so you put, somebody that small on me, I'll be like, oh, this is kinky. This is fun. But she proved us wrong. Kevin and I both thought she was way too small to be seriously considered. And she worked and she worked and she worked and she showed everyone that she belongs, that she can hang. And this is why I think this match tonight was so important. Yes, Rhea Ripley is deceivingly tall. A lot of people believe Rhea Ripley is a lot taller than what she actually is. And yes, some of it is because of the boots that she wears, but Rhea Ripley is not as tall as you think that she is. And her having this match with Ivy Nile tonight, shows you that someone the size of an Ivy Nile, you don't even think about her height. You just look at the ability and you look at the strength and you look at the moves, and the height means nothing. So when AJ Lee, if she returns to WWE, you put her on Raw and she has a face-to-face with Rhea Ripley, it's not going to look very one-sided. Ivy Nile tonight, look, she didn't do it for AJ Lee, but that match was so good tonight. Look, was it match of the year? No. Was it pay-per-view quality? No. But after seeing what happened with Maxine Dupree and Rhea Ripley recently, a lot of people, including me, were like, ugh, I'm a little nervous about this match. And I will say something else. Rhea Ripley, all the buzz that she might be somewhat banged up, which is why her, recent months of matches have been sparing and very one-sided at times. I think a lot of that was put out the window today because she pulled moves out that we haven't seen in a while. This was a very, very competitive match. This was not something that you thought was a squash. And it was a really, really good match. If you're a fan of Ivy Nile especially, go out of your way and check out that match. That was a very, very good match tonight. Enjoyed it. Very, very good. Mark Ness says that Rhea is 5'7", according to Google. You know, I say you look at her standing next to JD McDonough or Dominic Mysterio or even The Miz. I've always said this since I met The Miz when he was in Tough Enough. You know, Miz is deceivingly tall, but Rhea Ripley is deceivingly, I don't want to say short. She's not short, but she's average height. Put it this way. My wife is 5'7" or 5'8". No, she's 5'7", I believe. So, you know, anybody sees me standing next to her, she looks like a shrimp. Yes, I'm wide, but she looks like a shrimp. She's Rhea Ripley's height. You know, so her next to AJ Lee, it's not going to be as disparagingly as you think. So that's why if she returns, you got to throw on Raw. Plus, you have CM Punk and AJ Lee on the same brand where they get to tour together, kind of like with Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch, and they get to tour together. You know, that's a good thing. That's even more of a reason if Charlotte Flair wasn't injured, I'd still say put Andrade on SmackDown. Okay, let's run down a couple other things about Raw. I have something I'm going to show you about Elias. I'm going to show you something about Elias shortly. And a little funny thing about Top Dollar, AJ Francis, and a tidbit about Mace and Mansoor. I have a couple of little things there. So we'll start wrapping this up. We've already gone 45 minutes. Let's fill up in the blanks from tonight's Raw. The opening match tonight, I don't know how you all felt about it, but I want more. I thought this was a lot better than people anticipated it to be. Nia Jax defeats Becky Lynch. This, maybe I would have done without the blood capsule at the end, but this is going to continue. The tension, you felt it. And Nia Jax, you know, I get why people despise her. I get why people were so angry on her first WWE run. But even if you still dislike her immensely, you have to admit that she's definitely improved her game somewhat. She's heavy. She's always going to be somewhat slow. She's always going, you know, like, it's almost like, you know, you got to like build up your momentum to go. Like, it's like you wind up a toy and it starts as you're winding it up. It's slow. But as you wind it goes, zzz. That's what Nia Jax is. When she starts running, it's like slow motion. She's like this on the opposite, but by the time she's 3/4 across the ring, now she's got momentum. That's always going to be Nia Jax. But they had this match tonight, and we had a little bit of comedy. She goes for the leg drop on the apron. She misses. And it was Mahal Part 2. You know, she didn't do it, but I know everybody across the world was going, my hole. So she does the leg drop and she misses. She attempts a cannonball in the corner, no water in the pool. She goes to punch Becky in the face. Becky gets out of dodge. She punches the ring post like Gunther, if you've seen his matches against Miz. So we had a little bit of comedy with Nia Jax, but in the end, Nia Jax with the win. Becky with a sunset flip powerbomb off the top rope, somersault senton, only 2 count. She attempts a manhandle slam off the middle rope, but Nia swats her off. Becky Lynch towards the end of the match with a big punch fury, which was kind of goofy. It kind of looked like a bad cartoon, the way she was hitting Nia Jax in the back on her back. But Nia swaps her off again. But then Becky, towards the end of the match, she gets the upper hand and she climbs the apron. And I guess she's going to do like the leg drop off the top rope. But as she jumps off the rope, here's Nia Jax. Boom! Punches her right in the face. Next thing you know, she climbs the rope, hits the Annihilator, gets the win. And then we see Becky Lynch with a mouthful of blood. Yes, it was a blood capsule. If I was Becky, I would have bit the capsule. I would have put my head face down and I would have rubbed it a little bit on my nose. Because the nose really is what everybody looks at. And if you actually look at this picture with her nose looks a little bit crooked. So, but still a very good match. I think a lot of people were surprised that Nia Jax was going to get the win on this. And it continues what we've been saying about Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch, just listen, I'm not kissing her ass. She's one of the unsung heroes of 2023. If you look at the opponents that she reminds me of John Cena when he was the U.S. champion. You know, the people that she helped pick up in NXT a little bit. Even, listen, the Indy Hartwell stuff with her was going nowhere. We see now, I think you realize that. The Xia Li stuff with Becky went nowhere. You could see what's going on with Xia Li right now. I mean, some of the things that Becky who was feuding with really didn't go much of anywhere. But she's a veteran. She's one of the top women in wrestling. And to help contribute in a little bit, you know, Lyra Valkyria is probably reaping the biggest rewards right now. Tiffany Stratton a close second. So Becky Lynch, I think, is an unsung hero of 2023. By the way, this Saturday, we're going to get into a bunch of awards that, you know, media outlets are reporting. We're not going to get into every fucking pie. We're going to get into some of the bigger ones like, you know, like Fox, New York Post, even AEW, NXT put their awards out. So we'll get into some of those. Once Kevin and I come back in the beginning of February, we're going to do some year-end awards. And I know it's a month from now, but our year-end awards are going to be a lot different than everybody else's. And we'll have some WWE only, we'll have some NXT only, and we'll have some AEW only. But we have some ideas of what we're going to come up with. So we get a little bit more of the progression with Cody Rhodes and Shinsuke Nakamura. This is going to come to a close next week, 2 weeks before the Royal Rumble. If you remember our conversation before Shinsuke was revealed, Cody was revealed as the next person Shinsuke was targeting. Remember when Shinsuke he was talking about somebody privileged and all that, and people like, oh, he's calling out CM Punk. Oh, he's calling out Seth Rollins. He's calling no, he's calling out Cody Rhodes, and he called out Cody Rhodes. And what do we say? That feud will end in time for the Royal Rumble. The thing is that they were 6 weeks away from the Royal Rumble. Who's Cody going to mingle with between now and the Rumble? You have to pick somebody. Shinsuke was that person. Next week, Cody Rhodes versus Shinsuke Nakamura will be having a match. I'm kind of pissed that there's no stipulation involved. Hell, if it was a couple of years ago, or maybe a decade or so ago, I would have done a first blood match. But Cody Rhodes comes out there and he says, I fought blind and I'm just fine. And he thinks that everything with Shinsuke should already be done with. And we get more of the cartoon graphics. Kind of looks like what would you get if Roman Reigns had sex with Drew McIntyre and Shinsuke Nakamura. Am I wrong? Doesn't it look like this artist was drawing Roman, and then he's like, you know, he's a little too tall. You know, he's a little too built. You know, we'll like do this. It does. It looks like Roman Reigns had sex with Drew McIntyre and Shinsuke Nakamura. But the artwork is excellent, and we get more of the Shinsuke Nakamura stuff. And Shinsuke says, you know, I want to give you the American Nightmare one more week to dream, because I will finish your story. I turn American Nightmare American Dream into a nightmare. And then Shinsuke finishes by spitting blood. Spitting the mist, I should say. It looks like blood, but spitting the mist into the camera. And we find out that next week, Cody Rhodes versus Shinsuke will go at it one more time. Especially when he did the graphic. You know, I would have done a stipulation here, but they're not doing a stipulation next week. Kind of a little disappointed at that. Maybe they'll add something during the week. The Awesome Truth made a little bit of a return tonight. I enjoyed it very much. Miz TV, his guest is going to be R-Truth. He actually calls out the Judgment Day, and R-Truth comes out minus the Judgment Day. So Miz is looking at R-Truth, and Miz is like, where's the Judgment Day? Now, you see that they're staring at somebody. R-Truth is like, they were just behind me. And the Miz is asking R-Truth what his role in the Judgment Day is. And he says, he's doing administrative work. He's trying to help the PR. They make the Judgment Day more likable. JD McDonough and Dominic Mysterio come out. And JD is pissed off. This shit's going to end. You're not in the Judgment Day. Dominic gets booed big time in his hometown of San Diego, California. And he's going through the whole spiel. Judgment Day, most dominant faction in the WWE. And then R-Truth, reminds everyone about the Miracle on 34th Street street fight. And JD McDonough is not in the faction. He lost that match. Stips a final. So now, somehow, Miz and R-Truth decide that they're going to team up tonight. And it's going to be a tag team test. And it's against Dominic Mysterio and JD McDonough. And last week, I think or the week before, because last week was the best of. The week before, I never heard, R-Truth's name in recent years being pronounced the winner by Samantha Irvin. So now we get it 2 weeks in a row. The Awesome Truth beats Dominic Mysterio and JD McDonough. And towards the end of the match, there was two funny parts. One, R-Truth was outside on the floor, and he climbs up the apron, and Dominic Mysterio climbs up the opposite side of the apron. And because R-Truth is supposedly in Judgment Day, they looked for a moment like they're teaming up together. But towards the end of the match, R-Truth does a little Shawn Michaels from WrestleMania with Ric Flair. And you see him mouth the words to JD McDonough, "I'm sorry, I love you." And he nails JD McDonough, pushes him into the Miz, skull-crushing finale, 1, 2, 3. Awesome Truth get the win on JD McDonough and Dominic Mysterio. So it was a fun match. I enjoyed it. Next week also we're getting a rematch for the women's tag team championships. Listen, I'm not ragging on Katana Chance and Kaden Carter. I enjoyed their NXT work. It's not their fault that WWE creatively did not use them well when they were brought up to the main roster. So they definitely are worthy champions to defend those titles. But obviously, as we've said a few times now, Ivy Nile and Isla Dawn attacking the Kabuki Warriors was designed so people would not start immediately saying Kabuki Warriors versus Katana Chance and Kaden Carter. Kabuki Warriors, Kabuki Warriors, Kabuki Warriors. That's why they did what they did. So now you got to eat up weeks for Katana Chance and Kaden Carter. So we get a segment tonight where they're at a bar. Actually, let me go one step further. And Chelsea Green and Piper Niven, I like Piper's outfit, which is very creative. But they're hanging out in the bar, and they see Katana Chance and Kaden Carter, and they're talking about how they're going to be fighting champions. And Chelsea Green's like, don't keep those belts warm. And the next thing you know, they get into a little bit of mouthing off, and you see Kaden Carter throw a drink in Chelsea Green's face, and then I guess a bouncer comes over and ejects them. It's kind of funny that they're in the club and they're holding the belts and everybody's dancing. I mean, I love dance music. I've always loved like disco and hip hop and club music, but I'm starting to get a little tired of dance music when I see these segments. I mean, I get it. It's like a rave, club thing. Like everything is happy and we're dancing and we feel good and life is wonderful and everything is cake and ice cream. Maybe they need to do that when the Kabuki Warriors destroy them. But for now, they get the rematch next week. That'll eat up a couple of more weeks because waiting in the wings was the winner of the women's tag team match tonight. This really was not much of anything. I mean, we knew this for the last 2 weeks. Shayna Baszler, Zoe Stark defeat Natalya and Tegan Nox. Zoe Stark with the German suplex. Shayna Baszler with the German suplex. Zoe with the Z360. The Tegan Nox. They're next in line for the tag titles. Michael Cole didn't call them number one contenders tonight because the rematch next week with Piper Niven and Chelsea Green versus Katana Chance and Kaden Carter. But that feud is going to lead to Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark. Once that feud goes, then you'll probably see a little bit with the Kabuki Warriors. But that's not for at least a month after the Royal Rumble. But this match today was okay, but I think they rushed it a little bit because of what happened with The Rock and Jinder Mahal. That segment went on for a while, and I got news for you. The Miz, R-Truth, JD McDonough, and Dominic Mysterio, before they had that match, that segment seemed to have gone a lot longer than what was necessary. But this match felt a little bit rushed tonight. People really aren't going to remember it all that much. So that basically leaves us with the main event tonight. And the main event tonight, I said it right at the beginning of the show, Seth Rollins retains the World Heavyweight Championship over Drew McIntyre. If you've watched their matches in recent months, especially, Fastlane, I guess it was. No, it was Crown Jewel, wasn't it? I think it was Crown Jewel. Was it Crown Jewel Fastlane? No, well, correct me on that. But the last match he had with Drew McIntyre, it had to have been Crown Jewel. Yeah, it was. Drew McIntyre, what do you do with him now? Seriously. Listen, I still believe Seth Rollins will not be World Heavyweight Champion by the time WrestleMania comes around. Somebody is going to dethrone him of that championship. But unless they're going to do a trifecta, unless they do one more match with Drew McIntyre and Seth Rollins, I don't know how you go that far. I mean, where does Drew McIntyre go at this point? I thought that promo that he said 2 weeks ago, and they even played some of it tonight, talking about family members who have died since telling him, put in the sacrifice, the grind, and is it all worth it? And he loses again. This is almost, but you know what the weird thing is about it? It's maybe not weird, but it's interesting. Remember when the Street Profits were going into SummerSlam against the Usos in 2022? Remember that? Most of us, almost all of us thought the Street Profits could do no wrong. They had nearly a 5-star match with the Usos leading into SummerSlam. And they went into SummerSlam, they were wearing all white, had this tremendous entrance, had nothing but momentum behind them. And that was the pinnacle moment for the Street Profits to defeat the Usos and become undisputed WWE Tag Team Champions. And they lost. And at the time, people were baffled about it. Roman Reigns against Drew McIntyre, Clash at the Castle. If you remember that storyline leading up to it, there were enough people, including me, that was like, wow, this is like the perfect story for Drew McIntyre. And yes, WWE is notorious for crushing, stories. Like you can't always get what you want. And Drew failed. Sami Zayn, Elimination Chamber 2023. Enough people were convinced you got to give him the belt. That this is the time. Remember, that was before Cody was supposed to defeat Roman Reigns. And Sami lost and Cody lost. And when Cody lost, especially Cody, all of us were like, what the fuck? Like, this was the perfect start. I will tell you this. In all of my years of watching WWE, going back to 1979, I don't know. I mean, I would really have to think long and hard. But even that, I don't know if I could come up with any other era where you had 3 or 4 deep storylines that had the perfect ending, and none of the 4 happened. Street Profits and the Usos, Sami Zayn and Roman Reigns, Drew McIntyre and Roman Reigns, And even now, with Drew and Seth Rollins, Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 39. I don't recall ever like a 12-month period where you had 3 or 4 really deep storylines where it just felt like the stars are aligned. It's the perfect opportunity, the perfect storm. And all 4 times they failed. And every time somebody failed leading into tonight, we at that time said, what the fuck? I mean, maybe Sami and Roman was the least of them all because we knew that Roman was taking on Cody at Mania. So that one, I think we all knew, what the outcome was going to be. But with Drew and Roman and Cody and Roman and the Usos and the Street Profits, you could not come up with a better vibe and a better scenario and a better storyline and feud and build up to that outcome. You'll never be able to duplicate that. Never. And at those times, we questioned it. Now we look back on it. Okay. Now I can see why they kept the belt on the Usos. Because when Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn beat them, it was dethroning a record reign history, WrestleMania main event moment. Okay, Roman Reigns. Now on this crazy run, longest run of this generation, possibly surpassing Hogan, which he's not, but still getting himself in no record books with a crazy impressive run. So when Cody does finish it, Roman has had one of the greatest runs of this generation. Okay, now I get it. Every time at that time, we questioned it big time. But then in reflection, many months later, then we're like, okay, I get it. I don't get Drew McIntyre losing to Seth tonight. It makes Drew McIntyre come across as an absolute failure. Yes, he was world heavyweight champion before. Yes, he was the COVID champion, as I coined years ago. But you do what you did last year at Clash at the Castle, 2022 actually, and then you do what you did today, especially after cutting that promo about his family. I mean, what do you do at this point? Really, you can't put him on SmackDown because he's not going to go against Roman Reigns. He's not going to go up against Logan Paul. If he goes up against Gunther, people are going to cheer for Gunther. Are you going to turn him babyface again? Is this going to be like the failed Street Profits experiment? They tried so hard to turn Street Profits heel. Nobody wants him as a heel. You can put suits on Angelo Dawkins, until the cows come home. It's not what the fans want. And at the end of the day, you could see the ratings. We always talk about the Street Profits having, hundreds of thousands of people changing the channel while they're on. What do you do with Drew McIntyre now? I honestly don't know. I don't know. The only thing you could see is a stupid storyline where Dominic laughs at him in the back. Or somebody just laughs at him and he headbutts them and there's your feud. And like, oh, okay, we're supposed to forget about the fact that he can't win the big one anymore. Where do you go from here with this? The match was excellent tonight. Raw quality, not pay-per-view quality. But towards the end of the match, we had a couple of near falls. Drew hits the Future Shock DDT, 2 count. Tries to hit the Claymore. Seth Rollins turns it into a sit-down powerbomb, 2 count. Seth Rollins misses the corkscrew. Drew McIntyre misses the Claymore. Seth hits the pedigree, 2 count. Then here comes Damian Priest running down the rampway with Dominic Mysterio, briefcase in hand. And before Damian Priest could officially cash in, here's Drew McIntyre, knocks Damian Priest on his ass, tosses Dominic Mysterio like a salad, and then he starts focusing on Seth Rollins. And the picture that I said will spell this for a very, very long time, Drew McIntyre had the win. just turned Seth Rollins over just a little bit too much and hooked him into the ropes. Seth Rollins' toe barely touching the rope. Referee, great camera shot. Referee stops the count, and Drew looks devastated. Drew goes outside the ring, tries to take it out on the table with Seth. Seth turns it into a pedigree on the table, brings Drew McIntyre back in. Meanwhile, we're still thinking, okay, maybe something's going to happen with Damian Priest now. Something that happened earlier today that I'm sure enough of you out there saw. And it pissed me off after Raw was over because you realize that the person was full of shit. But because people don't check, and honestly, there was no way for me to verify it. But the people that do get paid to verify this stuff didn't bother, and they just ran with it. And I'll tell you what that is in a minute. But you're still thinking Damian Priest may cash in, and I'll explain why in a second. But next thing you know, here's Seth Rollins with the curb stomp, 1, 2, 3. They do a camera shot outside the ring, and Damian Priest is holding the back of his head. Dominic Mysterio is all shaken up. And I look at the clock. I'm like, oh, shit, it's 10:59. They're not giving us no overrun. We got Barmageddon next. Listen, can I say something funny for a second? How much do you think it burns that Barmageddon producers told Nikki Bella, we need you to cut a commercial. And on the commercial, we need you to say, next, after Raw, Barmageddon. Like, can you imagine how much that must have burned Nikki Bella to have to mention Raw? Especially since WWE's pretty much erased the Bellas. They haven't erased them from the record books, but, like the Nikki of WWE is Cross. And sooner or later, there's going to be a different Brie in that company. But we go off the air, and I'm saying to myself, I legitimately don't know what you do with Drew McIntyre right now. He already went through Sami Zayn. He already went through Jey Uso. He already feuded with Sheamus. He feuded with Gunther. He already feuded with Roman Reigns. He already feuded now with Seth Rollins. Do you have him attack Cody Rhodes? Like after the Rumble? Like, because remember, the Royal Rumble's in January. WrestleMania is in April. Does Drew McIntyre end up feuding with Cody? It's like, I really don't know what to say about Drew McIntyre at this point. Seth Rollins, I truthfully still believe he will not be World Heavyweight Champion when he takes on CM Punk at WrestleMania. I do not believe for a second CM Punk is winning the Royal Rumble. I'm now my thoughts of Sami Zayn winning the Royal Rumble kind of goes out the door. But if Seth Rollins somehow is still World Heavyweight Champion by Mania, then, things are all in disarray. But if Seth loses that championship before May, listen, I would not be surprised if WWE somehow does a number one contenders match and somehow Drew gets another shot. Somebody gets another shot. Maybe we get Gunther, getting a title shot down the line. But right now, at this point, I don't know what you do with Drew McIntyre. Like, the only way you fix Drew McIntyre is by having him win the championship. And what championship is that? Please, nobody say go to NXT. Listen, I am always for main roster talent going to NXT. I professed it years ago when everybody was saying that Hunter was a clown and being erased from WWE history. How ridiculous is that, looking back on it? I do not believe Drew McIntyre at NXT is the answer. Do not want to see that. I don't see Logan Paul either. I see LA Knight and Logan Paul somewhere down the line. Right now it's Kevin Owens and Logan Paul. But that was your Raw tonight. So next week, CM Punk will be returning. Next week, we have the match with Shinsuke and Cody Rhodes. And then we also have the tag team title rematch, Chelsea Green and Piper Niven versus Katana Chance, Kata Carter. Now, one thing that I was going to say to you earlier that pissed me off tonight was that some idiot reported that WWE had streamers, had a whole bunch of confetti in the air. And if you look at those screenshots, it was purple confetti. It was in the air. Now, a lot of places ran with it, and I'm looking at it, and I keep saying to myself, why would you have confetti? Like, even if Ivy Nile would defeat Rhea Ripley, which wasn't happening, like, you're not going to have confetti. If Damian Priest, who is a heel, all rise for the Judgment Day. I mean, as much as people want to cheer Damian Priest, he is still a full-blown heel. If he beats Seth Rollins, or if Drew McIntyre won that belt and then Damian Priest stole it from Drew McIntyre, you're not going to put confetti down. You're not going to put confetti down if Seth Rollins retains. I could not understand what the confetti was for. The only conclusion I came up with is maybe the confetti is for the return of a former WWE champion and they want to make a big deal about it. Then you had to think to yourself, okay, who's that former champion? I thought, and I'll tell you straight out, I thought for a while it was going to be a woman. Because Fightful, who I do support, I'm on their Patreon. They posted an article earlier. I don't, post their stuff publicly because, they're the ones that report it. I give them credit when deserved and needed. But Fightful posted the order of what we were getting tonight on Raw. And right after Ivy Nile and Rhea Ripley, the former world champion, the former WWE champion, they never said world champion, the former WWE champion was going to appear. And I said, Rhea Ripley and Ivy Nile, former WWE champion right after. And I was like, wouldn't that be something if Mercedes showed up after all? What if AJ Lee showed up after all and confronted Rhea Ripley? I even think Blue Meanie tweeted right around the time I did that, wouldn't it be something if AJ Lee or a woman comes out to confront Rhea, and that's the former WWE champion? But we didn't get that. We ended up getting, obviously, the Jinder Mahal Rock stuff. But, it's just at this point now, next week CM Punk returns. But that confetti report earlier pissed me off. Because when you saw the confetti, you saw it was purple, you can't help but to say to yourself, oh my God, Damian Priest going to cash in. And that's what a lot of people ran with. And then we find out tonight that confetti picture was fake. So, okay. Before we jet, because we've gone 77 minutes. I know we said we were going to finish a little earlier. We'll still finish on the 90 minutes tonight. Definitely check out the weekend shows if you haven't done so already. Two things. Oh, wait, is this Dragon Lee's tweet? Yes, here. Here's the Dragon Lee tweet from earlier. Sad news to kick off the year, but due to visa issues, I'm unable to leave Mexico right now. I find it hard to believe that 4 days before the holiday, he didn't have his visa issues in check. When they're preparing for New Year's Evil last Tuesday, hey, Dragon Lee, how's your visa issues? Oh, I don't know. It's supposed to be tomorrow. Are you sure? Yeah, be done tomorrow. Oh, boss, we got problem. Office is closed. Me no can get visa. I don't believe it. Not on that short notice. I think that was done maybe for a surprise return. Oh, there is something else. Thank you very much, Michael Gonzalez, for bringing it up. There is something I forgot tonight. And I'm glad you reminded me because I would be angry after the show was over. Best wishes go out to Giovanni Vinci. We did have another match tonight that I forgot to mention earlier. We had Jey Uso and Kofi Kingston take on Imperium. Now, I'm not happy that Imperium are being used as jobbers. I still think they're setting up Gunther versus Kaiser. Who knows? We might get Gunther versus Vinci as well. Maybe not after what happened tonight. Jey Uso and Kofi were taking on Imperium. Match very basic, very early on. And what happened, what I believe from watching the match, was Kofi Kingston hit a drop kick on Giovanni Vinci. And when Vinci fell on the mat, his neck whipped back a little bit hard, and it looked like he really banged the back of his head on the mat, and he knocked himself for a loop. And I don't know if it was Kofi or the referee, but props to whichever it was, immediately sensed something was up with Vinci. A doctor hit the ring and basically went through concussion protocol. Listen, I'm not going to use that tonight to bash AEW, but you know, when you saw what happened with Moxley and you see what happened with Guevara and others, you know, listen, what happened with Matt Hardy years ago, I mean, that was just, you know, inexperience on management's part in AEW. But whenever you sense that someone might be concussed, there is protocol that a doctor will do. Believe it or not, I know it sounds comedic, but a doctor will go like this: how many hands do I have up? And if you go 3, you know, or if you go 5 or 9, yeah, something might be wrong here. And for those on audio only, I had 3 fingers up, but I said, how many hands do I have up? And the answer is 1. Who's our president? What's today's date? What day of the week is it? Where are we? What state are we in? That's what these doctors ask the wrestlers. Trust me, I used to hang out with Frank Talent in Pennsylvania when I did work for XPW, and we talked all about State Athletic Commission and ambulances and protocols. So I love picking people's brains. And he used to tell me exactly what they would do. And I watched it firsthand. I watched it firsthand when Lizzie Borden's head hit the back of that table that time. You know, and immediately the doctor went up to her, and I'm standing right there, and he was asking her concussion protocol questions. And I don't remember what her answers were, but they were not good, and they rushed her to a hospital. But that's what they did tonight with Vinci. Vinci legitimately had his bell rung. They kept the camera focused on Jey and Kofi, who won by referee stoppage, but they kept the cameras only on them for about 30 seconds. And then you saw Kaiser walk by selling, you know, disappointment in the match. Then you saw Vinci walk by being helped by a referee holding the back of his head. So it looks like he's okay, but still enough that they stopped the match. And listen, props to everybody online who saw that it was a legit injury. Nobody complained. Sure, we don't want the match to end that way, but nobody was like, oh, come on, Vinci could have finished the match. No, Kaiser could have finished the match on his own. You know, props to everybody who's like, hey, you know, best wishes go out to Giovanni Vinci. And I echo those sentiments. So, all right. Before we go, what do I want to show you? Oh, I listen, I'm doing this just for the fuck of it, just for fun. It's probably ready to go tonight. Hopefully it's ready to go. I think it will be. You ever go on YouTube and it'll be like, trying to think of a good one. It'll be like 24 hours of something. Like there'll be a video and it'll be something on loop for 24 hours. It might be like 24 hours of somebody falling or 24 hours of a cat. They'll just loop something for like 3 hours or 6 hours long. What I did, just if you saw the New Year's Eve show, I took a video clip of Akira Tozawa in his hotel room doing this. And I looped it for 24 hours. It's not as easy as you think, because I tried to seamlessly loop it so it looks like he's actually in the hotel room for 24 hours doing that. But I spliced it and edited it and put it together, and I have 24 hours of Akira Tozawa just doing this. So just the troll. So that'll be on my channel later on. I just figured put something stupid up. But I have something I want to show you about Elias. Before I do that, Top Dollar did an interview, and do I have no, I don't have the transcript. All I'll say is this. He was interviewed by some guy in Sportskeeda, and Top Dollar said that he will not go back to the WWE. even if they were interested. He said, it's like a girlfriend. You get dumped twice. You don't go back a third time. I think if he improves his game and improves his worth, if WWE's willing to pay him big money, that motherfucker will be back in WWE. I think right now he's very, very bitter for being released, but, it is what it is. But you know what I'm happy for? You know what I really am happy for? I wish I could convince Mace and Mansoor to call their current tour the Chicken Salad Tour. I call it the Chicken Salad Tour because Mace and Mansoor are touring, I guess you could say the country right now because it's all within the United States, but they are booked for several dates. I mean, mostly in January and February, but Mace and Mansoor are being booked in a lot of promotions and together as a team. And from all accounts, from even the show that they did in, I think, Pasadena, Texas on December 30th, people are like, these two guys are great. And I call it the Chicken Salad Tour because as Maximum Male models, they were given chicken shit. And instead of going home and trying to reinvent themselves and have a new career singles, they are still teaming up. And feds are booking them as a tag team. And they are entertaining the fans. And I tell you, obviously I have some people who I support big time who are released, who have not had many gigs yet. But so far, I am the happiest for Mace and Mansoor. Seriously. To see them book so many places, that's chicken shit turned into chicken salad. WWE gave them chicken shit in Maximum Male Models, and they're turning it into chicken salad by getting booked all across the indies. Very, very happy for Mace and Mansoor. So now we close out today's show talking about Elias. Elias posted a cryptic video. He is returning to wrestling. I would not be surprised if he shows up on Impact. I don't know if NWA would be a good fit, and I'm not sure if AEW would be a good fit. But he has changed his name, and his gimmick, I don't know what you want to call it, but I'm going to show you a video. It's about 2 minutes long. I'll probably have to end the video a couple of seconds early so I don't get hit with any copyright with music. But if you remember Elias, when he was dead, remember when WWE did the tombstone, Here Lies Elias? This video is basically having Elias return from the grave, but he's no longer Elias. He's something else. Here's the video. It's pretty cool. I'll be back after the video's over.
Acclaim. The Holy Scriptures say it is appointed one where is thy sting? O grave, where is thy victory? He himself shall be saved, as though through fire.
Who wants to walk with Elijah? I like it. The video's great. Let's see what he does with his gimmick. Because honestly, when you saw the end of it, he looks the same. I mean, he looks the same. So, will we get used to that? Who wants to walk with Elijah? But it was a good video. Hopefully I don't get hit with any copyrights at the very end of that music. So we might have to mute part of it. But if you go back and you see any of it muted, you know why. But I always try to push the envelope here anywhere I can. But all right, I'm going to jet out of here. I hope you all have a great, happy new year. Back to business. And again, 4 weeks from today, the Don Tony Kevin Castle show returns full time. For me, my shows will be business as usual for the next 3.5 weeks. When we get to Royal Rumble time, Kevin and I will do a prediction show before the Rumble, probably about 5 days before. And then once we start that Monday show, we're only going to have one other show during the week, not named Patreon. Patreon is still going to be on normal schedule. We just have to figure out if we're going to continue Saturday or Sunday. Do we change the time? We're probably going to keep the sit down because everybody that tunes into the sit down seems to really enjoy, this off the cuff, just random discussion. Because a lot of the news that I cover on the Saturday show, Kevin and I are going to talk about on Mondays because Mondays is going to be loaded shows going forward. 2-3 hour bangers probably will be the norm. So we're going to condense 2 to 3 shows in one. And believe me when I tell you, we are taking this very, very serious. Our goal by the end of 2024 to be in the top 10, top 20 at minimum. So next week, I will have more details. I will have the Discord link. I will let everybody know how you'll be able to register, sign up, and tune in live. And I can't thank you all for the support. And not only that, all of your requests and demands to see us back together. We were not going to force it. We were not going to push it. If that was the case, we would have went back to Mondays 9 months ago. But we feel the time is right now, especially with the amount you're going to see in the next 24 hours. Between Mercedes, between Rock and Roman, Cody not finishing the story, you're going to see so many of your regulars and big-time shows that are, without naming a particular name, and it's not Cornette, because everybody runs to Cornette. There's one podcast right now that I am a huge fan of, and that podcast has turned into an obsession about AEW and Tony Khan. And every time I see a fucking clip pop up on my feed, it's about AEW. It's about Tony Khan. It's about AEW, Tony Khan. It's about Tony Khan and Jericho. It's about Jericho and AEW. Every day I'm like, oh my God. It's like, it's just overkill. Like their whole podcast is now consumed with Tony Khan and AEW. And it kind of reminds me of, who remembers the Morton Downey Jr. show from the late 80s? I was a hardcore fan of that show. And that show, that was around the same time of the Tawana Brawley scandal, and I've brought this up before. And it got to a point that their ratings started to suck. And they were running out of good topics to talk about. And they had crazy people there. They had KKK there. They had prostitutes there. They had AIDS victims there. They were just trying to create any buzz any way they can. And then they realized, let's keep bringing Al Sharpton on the show. Let's keep bringing up Tawana Brawley. Let's keep bringing up Tawana Brawley every week. Oh, latest thing in Tawana. And it was just trying to just clickbait people into watching the show, and they had nothing. And if I feel like it's the same formula now, like they're just, oh, let's just talk about Tony Khan and AEW and we'll just get a whole bunch of haters tuning in. Woof. Just really, it's not JD and they go, JD talk, you watch his show tonight, it's AEW will probably be 5% of it. You can figure out who I'm talking about. Look at the bigger shows out there and you see nothing but AEW and Tony Khan stuff. Kevin and I are taking this very seriously. I think you give us 3 months and you will realize not only how many shows copied how we did what we did, but you'll see how much of the, not just clickbait, but how much people are using emotion to get you to tune in. And then you realize, wait a minute, they knew the truth and kind of twisted it. The Kevin Dunn stuff is like a perfect example of it. Guy's old. Guy retired. Guy he's done. He wants to take a step back. And you see what it gets turned into the next couple of days. So you would think that he is a huge Trump supporter, So, all right. I'm out of here. Much love. I'll talk to you all soon. Be well.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a podcaster. For me to live any other way was nuts. To me, those goody-good people who worked shitty jobs for bum paychecks and took the subway to work every day and worried about their bills were dead. I mean, they were suckers. They had no balls. If I wanted something, I just took it. I ran everything. I paid the bills. I paid the host. I even paid the masked maniac. Everybody had their hands out. Everything was for the taking. We always called each other good fellas. You would always hear from somebody. You're gonna like Don Tony. He's all right. He's a good fella. He's one of us. But if you're part of my crew, nobody ever tells you they're gonna get rid of you. It doesn't happen that way. There weren't any arguments or curses like in the movies. See, your haters come with smiles. They come as your friends, the people who've claimed they care the most for your life. And now that's all over. And that's the best part. Today everything is different. There's lots of action. I don't have to wait around for everything like everyone else. Oh, I didn't get the vaccine? Fuck you, vaccine me. Oh, your delivery guy has COVID? Fuck you, feed me. Right after I moved here, I ordered egg noodles and ketchup, and I got spaghetti with meat sauce. I'm no longer an average nobody, while they get to live the rest of their lives like a bunch of schnooks.